What is up, guys? Welcome back to Live Travel Asia. So first off, I have to apologize because on my second picture profile video, I forgot to mention that that video was not designed for my regular travel vlog viewers, and you ended up having to sit through a lot of mumbo jumbo geeky talk about picture profiles. I'm so sorry about that. But I'm still making this video because I originally made that video for myself and it ended up helping a lot of people, and it's currently my second most popular video, so I thought it would be injustice for me to not do some follow-up videos and share my findings as I am improving my filmmaking so that I deliver the best picture quality to you guys. So I am not going to be offended at all if you click off now because all I'm going to be doing is just talking about geeky techie picture profile stuff about color modes and gamma with some random scenery or people getting out of clubs. Anyways, without much further ado, this is part 3 of my picture profile series, and today what we're gonna do is establish the best color mode to shoot in with the Cine 2 profile as well as the S-Log 2 and S-Log 3 profile, so all of them match and it has a nice rich red color and it doesn't have that weird yellowish tinge that the Sony gives off. Okay, so now I'm at my condo. It is 2 a.m. super late at night, so this is going to be a great opportunity for me to try out the new Cine 2 custom setting that I've designed so that it matches the S-Log 2 and S-Log 3 profiles. I'm going to shoot everything at 3.5 f-stop, which is more realistically what I'll be shooting at this kind of light. So a little reference to the backstory of why I'm doing this. The first picture profile video I established that I like S-Log 2 in daytime where noise and exposure isn't an issue. In the second video I established that I like Cine 2 profile the best where dynamic range isn't an issue in super low light situations. Unfortunately, the Cine 2 picture profile settings for EOSHD Prolog still gives off a slight yellowish tinge, which I didn't like. So what I did for this video was adjust the color phase and color depth to match the S-Log 2 EOSHD Prolog settings. And you will see that the Cine 2 custom picture profile that I have has less of that yellowish tinge like the original EOS HD and has a slightly reddish tone like my S-Log 2 and S-Log 3 profiles. So here is the original Cine 2 profile and this is my custom. You'll now see that there isn't this overpowering yellowish hue to the whole picture, and it matches my S-Log 3 and S-Log 2 picture profiles, which I like. But pay attention to the skin tone. This is the original one and this is a custom. And you'll also see in my S-Log 3 and S-Log 2 that the skin tone looks super dead and desaturated. Now I know what you're thinking just based on this test shot, and that's that I could just jack up the saturation on the other 3 picture profiles to match the original Cine 2, but I did quite a bit of color correcting, and I can tell you if I jack up the saturation, the color noise becomes worse. You can also see from this example that even though overall you get a reddish tone to my custom picture profile, the red itself isn't this vibrant red that you see in the original EOS HD Prolog setting, but it becomes a little bit dead and desaturated. And red to me is the most important color as far as color grading. I really like to see those vibrant reds. Every other color could be wrong, but if the red is right, I like it. And if every other color is right, but the red looks dead and not bright and deep, then I really don't like it. Now this is where I have to get very technical and where I am starting to now talk about my own personal opinion about colors. So you may not completely agree with this, but I will reference where I got all this information so that you yourself can come to the conclusion that you want for your color space. But if you see my previous picture profile 2 video, you'll see that the S-Log 2 and the S-Log 3 doesn't look as much desaturated in the reds. If anything, it was more saturated. And what I realized is in the process of switching everything over so they match the Cine 2 S-Log 3 and the S-Log 2, what I did was I didn't only change the color phase and the color depth so that it has that reddish look, but I also changed the color mode to S-Gamut 3 Cine. Now prior to watching my test footage and researching this to find out what I messed up with, I had absolutely no idea what S-Gamut 3 Cine did, other than the fact that I've watched tons of other YouTubers and they all recommend S-Gamma 3 Cine as the best color mode. It's the most advanced color science from Sony, etc, etc, etc. So I just always use S-Gamma 3 Cine, and I just thought, hey, I'm gonna unify everything under S-Gamma 3 Cine. But I've realized that that's what was causing the desaturated look. Instead of going into all the details about all the technical stuff, because you're really gonna get bored, I'm gonna go ahead and just link a YouTube video that I watched from one of the YouTubers that I really like as far as this technical kind of stuff, which is Harv video and audio stuff. And he also has another link to an actual written out spreadsheet of the different color spaces and color modes from Sony, which I looked over to come to my own conclusion. But long story short, basically any of the S-Gamut color modes, it's designed for a lookup table, and it's gonna give you that desaturated look because it's capturing the widest range of colors available out there. So if you don't do a lot of color correcting, it's not gonna have a correct look. Furthermore, it is designed for one of the log profiles, so you shouldn't really be using it on one of the Cine profiles because the dynamic range it captures and all the colors, it's not gonna perform well if you're gonna do it with a Cine profile. So what I did was I went ahead and chose what's called the cinema profile. Now I know this is sounding confusing because it was confusing to me because Sony happens to name some of their gamma settings and their color modes the same, such as cinema, movie, etc, etc. So if you're really lost, then just don't worry, I'll go ahead and paste all the settings in the end if you just want to see the settings I use, so that you just copy what I did and hopefully it works. But this is more for the people that want to understand the science behind all the color modes. So all the S-Gamuts are going to color the widest range of colors. It's going to have that desaturated look, so in post you can specifically increase the colors on a specific color, such as red, green, or blue, so that you have that exact look that you want. Whereas all the other modes, such as the movie, the still, the cinema, the pro, ITU 709 matrix, it's gonna display the colors the way you see it on a standard monitor. So if you're not going to do a lot of color grading, these are the ones to go for. The cinema color mode is actually a mode that is designed specifically for the Cine 1 and Cine 2 gamma. So I went ahead and chose that. As a matter of fact, it's one of the most desaturated color modes out of the non-S gamuts. But being that the cinema gamma has a more saturated look, it actually ends up matching my S-Log 2 and S-Log 3. Now this is where it gets tricky, because although I like the cinema color mode for the Cine profiles, it doesn't really look good on the S-Log profiles as it's not really designed for them. It gives it a very desaturated look, and I might as well just go with the S-Gamut 3 Cine, which is a better color science for grading. And when I chose the movie color mode, which is actually supposed to be the default video shooting mode for Sony, it does have a better saturated color out of the camera, but I feel like there was a lot more color noise in it in low light settings, so I don't know what to do about that. For now, what I think I'll do is I'll just stick to the S-Log 2 for daytime shooting and S-Log 3 in very well lit situations, but still where there's dynamic range, such as inside a mall, where I don't have to deal with noise issues from ISO sensitivity. And the Cine 2 profile, I actually really like it now that it has a reddish tone and I'm getting those deep reds. So I'll shoot that for most of my night scenes because quite frankly I don't really care about the dynamic range at night because there isn't much dynamic range to shoot anyways. Now before I wrap things up, I also wanted to quickly touch up on skin tones. As you can see here, the original Cine 2 picture profile might be better if you have a lot of acne and you want to cover that up because it's not going to accentuate the red. But for general purposes, I like my newer custom picture profile for Cine 2 because it gives it a healthier look on your skin. You have a little bit of red, it doesn't look like you're dying. However, S-Log 2 and S-Log 3 are going to give you the most flattering skin tones with a nice red color. Unfortunately, it's the noise issue that you have a problem with, but if you look at this daytime shot, you can definitely see that the S-Log 2 performs far better than the Cine picture profile, and that's why I use S-Log 2 in the daytime. Okay, so now the part everyone's been waiting for: what picture profiles am I going to be using? Well, okay, this time it's gonna be a little bit more in depth because I don't think I want to do another picture profile video for quite a while, but my latest tests have gotten me to a point where I'm very comfortable with my picture profile settings, and I also know what I'm gonna be experimenting with the future. Anyways, both the picture profiles are about the same for Cine 2 and S-Log 2 and 3. The main similarity is going to be that the black level is going to be set at +15 and the black gamma is going to be set to wide and +7. This is something that I am quite certain I'll keep doing, because what that does is it creates the widest dynamic range for my blacks, and I want that low contrast cinematic look for my video. As far as the gamma setting, you just would change it to the appropriate one. I talked in detail to death in the last 3 picture profile videos about the differences, so just choose the one that you want to use. But I am going to be sticking with Cine 2, S-Log 2, and S-Log 3. Those are the only picture profiles I will be using. You're going to be asking me why I don't use Cine 4 when everybody's using it. I used to actually use Cine 4 because that's what everyone is saying that you should use. But I think it's just way too contrasty. I've done the test in my first picture profile video, and you can clearly see there is a lot of dynamic range missing from Cine 4. I do not see the reason for using Cine 4 over Cine 2 for whatever reason whatsoever, because you have the same amount of noise, you just have more dynamic range with Cine 2. Now the next thing is that the knee settings, this part I actually don't know too much about. I just set it to the default manual settings, which is 100% and at slope 0. I've also even heard Cody Blue, he's another YouTuber that I watch, he sets it like somewhere around 80 and he thinks it has a better highlight roll off. Quite frankly, I haven't really noticed the difference between this manual knee setting and the auto setting, but it may be something I am willing to look into in the future. But I believe it has something to do with the contrast, and I'm actually quite happy with the way the contrast is, so that's not something I am going to be doing in a video anytime soon. Now the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the color mode, and this is going to change depending on if I'm going to be using a Cine or an S-Log profile. So for the Cine, I've decided to use the cinema profile because I've previously explained that Sony designed that specifically for that profile. I think I like it, but if I want a little bit more punch to the reds without too oversaturating it, I think I may want to experiment with either the Pro or the still color. It is somewhere in between the movie and the cinema profile as far as how saturated it is. As for the S-Log profile, I'm using movie right now because it has the most saturation to it. It has a really warm look, but I've noticed like a bit of color noise, but who knows? I mean, if I want the same amount of color and I'm using an S-Gamut and I jack up the saturation, I might have the same amount of noise. But I may experiment with just going with either Pro, which still looks pretty nice on S-Log 2 or 3, or just going back to S-Gamut 3 Cine for my S-Log profile. So that's something I will be experimenting with. You're free to try that, but right now I just sort of like how a movie looks. It's not too bad. As far as the saturation, this is completely up to you. It just helps me color correct in post. I like to have my colors about the same and the saturation about the same, so if I copy paste my color correct settings across the board, it all generally just looks about right, and I'm doing minimal adjustments to highlights and shadows. So I know one of my viewers was commenting, oh, it's just too much work color correcting, but if you look at my first picture profile video, you'll see it isn't. It's not really that hard to color correct. You don't have to use advanced LUTs or anything. I don't use any. I just use the default color correcting on Final Cut Pro X. Okay, moving on to detail. I have it set to -7, and basically what detail is in-camera sharpening. Most people will tell you to set that as to the lowest number possible, -7. Basically what it does is it gives you the most amount of detail actually at -7, because there isn't in-camera sharpening that is taking away from the detail. However, I did take a bit of advice from Cody Blue. He has it set to 0 for slow motion footage, and what that does is it sharpens everything because there's a little bit more noise and it becomes a little bit more hazy because you're shooting at a crop factor or at a lower resolution. So this sort of helps match my footage, and I've decided, you know, that's not bad. I'm gonna go ahead with detail 0 for my slow motion footage. Now lastly, I am gonna address the color phase and the color depth. I know somebody commented, oh, why aren't you releasing it? It's no big secret. Well, it is sort of a secret because somebody is selling this for quite a bit of money. So I am not ethically allowed to release that because this is his proprietary information. What I can say though is you could definitely experiment on your own. We all know that yellow is a color that is just so dominant in Sony. So what the color depth and the color phase does is you can individually adjust the factors for different colors. I would recommend that you turn that yellow down. That's what a lot of people do. Now there's actually a lot more to that, to the EOS HD picture profile. If you are interested, I recommend you purchase it. But if you aren't and you just want something that may look somewhat okay, Kodi Blue also has some custom color phase or color depth settings that you can use as well. His colors, I don't really prefer it over the EOS HD Pro, but you might like it. I think his colors are more hipsterish. It has a more desaturated blue, and then you can make the blue turn into turquoise and things like that. So if that's the look that you're going for, go for Kodi Blue. But as far as the EOS HD settings, I cannot release that. I'm sorry. If you find it somewhere else on the internet, then go for it. But I personally haven't found it being released anywhere for free. I don't want to be sued by this guy because I'm American. We all tend to sue each other if we steal things. So that is just, even if I was able to unethical, I recommend that you find out from somewhere else if you want to try to get this setting. Anyways, I hope the rest of the settings help you out. I mean, this is what I've ended up with to my preference. You'll notice that I sort of like a more desaturated look, but because I've explained everything to you, it's completely up to you to adjust them and make it more contrasty, or just do what I do. If I wanted more contrasty, I could always take the shadows and highlights to the extreme in post and make it contrasty that way. But at least the footage I'm shooting itself is gonna retain all the information by using the settings that I'm using. Now I will say, however, that some of the settings that I have mentioned do overlap with the EOS HD Pro log settings, but they also overlap with the settings of many other YouTubers such as Matt, wedding photographer, I think his name is, and Kodi Blue. And some of the settings I've just come to my own conclusion, and I don't think anybody else uses those settings. But whatever the case, I'm not telling you which one is EOS HD Pro, and it's pretty basic information. You can only go so far with the other settings. So that's why I've decided with those, I'm not going to tell you which one is EOS HD Pro, which one is mine, which one I've gotten from some of the other YouTubers and experimented with. But the end result is I am really happy with my custom picture profile setting, and I hope what this ultimately does is, you might not like the way that I shoot, maybe it's too contrasty or not contrasty enough, but at least it helps you have an idea of picture profiles and you know what to adjust and manipulate, just like I did with all the other information that's floating out there, to come up with your own best picture profile setting and not just limit yourself to what the other YouTubers are saying and just use Cine 4 like I was doing for almost 7-8 months until I realized, hey, I actually don't really like this contrasty look. It's now 3 a.m. I've been shooting for an hour. I'm sweaty, mosquitoes are biting me, and I gotta get up tomorrow, and Maya's gonna kill me because I've been out so late. But a man's gotta do what he's gotta do. Whatever the case, if you found this helpful, I really encourage you to like, comment, and share. And please subscribe and check back with us. I will definitely have more of these techie kind of instructional videos. But next up will definitely be my Zion Crane Plus gimbal review. That is a new tool I added to my arsenal, and I'm really excited to share all the benefits with you. I already shot it, but I just didn't really like how it came out. I want to make it more informative and more enjoyable for you to watch. So I'm gonna actually reshoot like half of that and post it when I can. I do have a backlog of a ton of travel vlogs that I need to do, so I'm not sure when I'll upload it, but I definitely will upload a vlog every Saturday as I do, and I'm actually lately trying to shoot for 2. So definitely check back with us, and I hope you guys have an amazing week and make awesome videos for your viewers. Thanks again guys for checking out this super lengthy, in-depth, detailed video. I wanted to conclude it and just include all the information because I really don't want to be doing another techie video for a while. It just takes so much time, brain power, and I want to just be editing my backlog of travel videos I need to do. And I certainly hope you are one of my travel vlog video viewers watching this, because it was super geeky and long, but you had been warned in the beginning. Anyways, this was just an impromptu vlog, so I'll still have my regular scheduled vlog out this Saturday, continuing from my Udon travel series. So just to wrap it up, what you're seeing right now are the ungraded images of me trying different ISOs and exposing S-Log3. This is just something supplemental because I wanted to see how good the auto ISO works. I don't really want to go into too much detail about this. I just really want to wrap up this vlog, but it will always underexpose, guys. Always overexpose your S-Log3s. That's what everybody will tell you. And what you'll see here is when I set the ISO to 1600, the S-Log3 looks super noisy, and I was like afraid, oh, if I jack up the ISO, I'm gonna get noise from the ISO. But if you notice how I color graded the 12,800 ISO S-Log3 and I brought it down to the same brightness as my 1600 ISO S-Log, there was actually less noise, and that just blew my mind. It actually looked way better than my Cine 2. So now you're probably hating me because I'm throwing in a curveball and saying, oh, S-Log3 actually looks better than Cine 2 even at low light if you correctly expose. But anyways, I'm still gonna stick with Cine 2, guys, because trying to correctly expose S-Log3 and screwing up or just adjusting the ISO settings every time I have to take another shot, especially when I'm vlogging, it just takes way too much time. So that's why I like Cine 2 for nighttime shooting. As far as S-Log2, I will still continue using it during the day because I love how the skin tones look and the dynamic range it provides. So that is just the last bit of tidbit I wanted to include in there, because people are wondering, why am I even trying to do things with S-Log3? Well, S-Log3, there is a reason why people use it and they say it's the best, because if you correctly expose, it gives you the best dynamic range.